Hey there viewers, Eric O here, South Main Auto. Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, welcome to our channel. Got a new vehicle to work on here today. I've got this '07 Subaru Forester. It's come in. The lady requested that we replace her front struts. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna bring you along as I do. A couple people asked about this impact here. I just had in my trailer brake video. It's the Astra Pneumatic Mini. That's how small this thing is. This thing's tiny. So this is your average 19mm deep. That's how big this thing is. My friend Denny turned me onto this thing. And it's cheap too. I don't remember how much it was, but it was cheap. You can see it peels lug nuts, no problem. The overall height of this thing from the tip of the anvil to the back of the handle is the same exact overall height as the Ingersoll Rand Hammerhead little 3/8 impact. And this is advertised at like 450 foot-pounds, which it has all of. I've put it to the test against my 231, Dennis calls them my marshmallow guns, the old IR Thunder guns, and this works equally as well so far. This here is the driver's side strut. And we can see she's probably not too far off. Strut's starting to leak. It is original. The car's got over 100,000 miles on it, or just over. Yeah, you can see up on the shaft. They are starting to weep. Not excessively, but they're starting to. So probably, I imagine the ride's starting to deteriorate. So what we're going to do next, I'm just going to do the same thing on the driver's side as on the passenger side. It's got one bolt here on the brake hose. We're going to unhook that. Looks like a 12mm. Got another one here on this ABS wire. We're going to unhook that. We're going to unhook the two bolts out of the spindle here, or this steering knuckle. And these are pretty easy to do, actually. So that was the brake hose. Took the bolt out of that. Slide the slips off. Going to do the same thing here on the ABS. Looks like we're going to need more horsepower. Oh, we got the ABS wire out, got the brake hose out. Gonna take the two bolts here out of the strut. I want to keep my CV axle from popping apart, so I'm just going to use my little twist wire here. It doesn't have to hold much, so I'm just going to come up around the brake hose here. Be plenty strong. Just stick it through this slot right here. Just keep this knuckle in. That way there it doesn't take a chance of pulling the boot apart, and kind of keeps this held in for you. So we've got all the bolts out of the strut. Strut's ready to come out. We just got to bust the 3 bolts loose on the top and we're done. Pay attention. The bolts are not the same on these cars. So your two lower bolts in the strut, you'll see, are just plain, just regular straight bolts and nuts. Your top bolts are cam bolts. So you'll see this, elongated lobe on that cam. I don't know if you can see it when I rotate it. There it is high. It's recessed there, you spin around, it's low. So what that's going to do, and there's one on each side, at least on this vehicle, that's going to allow for camber adjustments to be made on the front end after the new struts are in, or anytime there's a wheel alignment done. So if you're not familiar with the camber, so basically your toe setting on your car is the vertical straight ahead position of your wheels. Straight ahead, left to right, I guess. You got individual toe on your front end, and then your camber is basically your vertical alignment of your wheels. Whether they're cambered in or cambered out, positive or negative, and then the caster angle that you hear about too on vehicles, not adjustable on this car, at least from the factory, is the alignment of your ball joints. So basically, how your strut, the pivot point of your essentially your ball joints, are where it pivots from the top of the strut to the ball joint. So it's the vertical alignment of that, you know, whether you have positive caster, negative caster. I hope that explains it. So yeah, it's just basically how it pivots and how that in degrees from vertical, you know, where that sits. And like I said, it's a non-adjustable angle on this. So you got caster, camber, and toe are your 3 basic alignment adjustments. So after we put these new struts in, run it down, I'll get it lined up, and you know, we'll be back in business. All right, so you can see that's pretty simple. Just got to take and we're going to pull the 3 bolts off the top mount here and pull the strut out. So usually I take the first one off and I'll put it back on, just a couple threads. That way there the strut just hangs for us. So then you just come around, hold it, one hand, reach up, grab the strut here, and then just push it up, spin that nut off you left on loose, and then just take the whole strut assembly out towards the tie rod end. Ah, drop the nut. I just blow off the mounts because we're going to be reusing them. They're in real good shape. You know, there's no rust on these. You know, they're in perfect shape. Bearings work well. So I'm going to get it mounted up in a spring compressor and just swap these struts out. So basically what I was doing, I was just sticking our compressor here, and I guess before you ask, it's a Brannick 7400. It's a compressor I've had for many years, and it works well. So before I do that, we're using the mounts, we're using the spring and the seat, and everything there. So I'm just going to push right on top of the strut bearing, hold the bottom coil, and that way everything on the top stays together. We don't have to worry about anything really. You're going to want to notice, I guess, before you compress these, is your orientation to the slot of the strut here. So on this, the upper mount has three dots in it. The center dot here, if you follow it vertically down, is lined up perfectly with the slot here where it goes onto the steering knuckle. So that's the only thing you have to orient correctly. These bearing mounts go in all 3 ways. They're non-positional, I guess. Or non-specific as far as what way they go in. So this orientation of this doesn't matter because it rotates. So it's just the upper spring seat to the strut. So once I get that done, I just put a little bit of pressure on it. Usually I'll go around and make sure the spring is definitely, you know, being held well by the spring compressor. I've never had one come out. I've often thought about it. It's probably pretty scary when this thing comes out because you have a pretty substantial amount of weight on it. Okay, so we can see that it's the strut's loose in there now. We'll take our center nut out. Looks like it's got an Allen in the middle, and then probably 17 mil. We'll just try to buzz it out. These struts are junk, so I'm not worried about it. Anybody that works in a shop knows that this distance in here trying to get these apart is always a pain because nothing fits. The Astro Nano fits wonderfully. Matter of fact, you could probably fit 2 of them in here. So, buzzes the nut right off. Take our strut right out of there, and we're ready to go. Is this the right one? Let's see. It's not. It's never the first box you open. Just like doing alignment. You go to set the toe, whatever way you turn it, it's the opposite. Alright, here we go. We got the right one. A couple things we need to do. We need to pull our bellow off. And our bump stop, that's got to be swapped over. Sometimes there's a rubber on the bottom here of the spring seat. In this case, they're not. They're just metal. So we can see this strut now. We can see that this one is leaking and accumulating some trash in there. So we've got that off. Oops. Whoa! Hang on. We'll swap over our bump stop, like I say. Stick our bellow on there. And it really doesn't matter where this goes because it's going to go where it goes when the car bottoms out or whatever it does. It did come with a new nut. Right here in the package. A new lock nut. So we'll get that. We'll send our spring back up through. Or our strut rather. Push it out just a smidge more. Wow. Okay, I've got the nut started. Always makes you feel better when you get that done because it makes this whole process feel a little bit safer. Looks like if we put our spring in the lower seat right where it belongs, our orientation is correct. So I'll get a different angle here to show you what I'm talking about. So you can see what I was talking about in this upper strut mount. You've got this hole right here in the strut mount, you know, right where it's beveled out here. That should be perfectly vertically in line with the opening there for the steering knuckle. So what I want to do now is I want to hold that stud in the middle of that strut and I want to tighten the nut down. You don't want to just hammer on this with an impact. Let's see if I get my socket in here. Of course, the Monroe has made this a 19 millimeter, whereas it used to be a 17. So the clearance is really tight now. It makes it kind of a pain. Good job, Monroe. Oh, there we go. Get that set up like that. And then we'll just continue on the process here. Like I said, it's kind of snug against that rubber. If they kept it the original 17 millimeter size, it'd be a whole lot handier. So it's going to be the slow process of holding it and tightening it. Seen a lot of guys in a lot of shops just nail them down with the impact, but I guess the problem is if you rotate the shaft too much inside the strut, I guess you could damage the valving and you know, other components in there. Let's see if I can rotate this to take a little different tension to offset it. There we go. So I'm going to continue tightening this down. Once I've gotten it tightened, I'll show you the rest of the process. Well, that's tight. Looks like everything's in line. So now we'll just take the tension off it. Simple as that. So you can see if you have a strut spring compressor, the job's pretty simple. The majority of people probably don't have these at home. A lot of you guys in the shops, you do. I like the brand. The thing's awesome. It's super powerful. I think it's the same one Eric the car guy just got. I don't know. I think they gave him one to use or something. At any rate, I would say if you're doing this at home, if you don't have a spring compressor, the little cheese dog ones you get at the parts store, the 2 forcing screws, those things are super dangerous. I've used them. I do stuff dangerously and foolishly sometimes, but those things are super dangerous. This spring has enough tension to hold up essentially 1/4 of the car. You can tell when you're turning this 4-cent screw, it's under a lot of pressure. It's not something you really want to screw around with. And with those, you know, the forcing screw type, they just clamp onto the spring. You've got to force the spring down. I would say probably under more tension. I don't know if that's true. Under a lot of tension, because you're grabbing just 2 coils of spring, and you have to smush them a lot to get the strut apart. What I would suggest, if you're doing this yourself, get a hold of a shop prior to doing this. Tell them that you're changing your own struts. How much will you charge me to swap out my struts if I bring them to you? I'd ask them that. I get people stopping all the time. Hey, will you swap these struts over? Sure. I swap them over, send them on their way. It's a minimum charge. You know, you might get, I don't know, it's hard to say. You know, they might charge you half-hour labor. I really don't know. I charge 3/10 of an hour is what we charge you. I get 65 an hour. I charge 0.3 to swap them around. Usually you can do them, you know, the camera off, you can swap them pretty quickly, you know, in minutes usually, as long as you're not changing, you know, mounts and things like that. So if they come in, they want me to do mounts and bearings and other stuff, that adds. Swapping just a plain old strut, I get 3/10 of an hour. So I would encourage you, if you're doing it, find a shop that's willing to swap them over for you. Make sure you have a ride, you know, because your car's gonna be disabled, to take it there and, you know, get them swapped over. So it's just a whole lot safer than trying to screw around at home and having one of those things come undone, and you know your wife comes home and you got a spring dangling out of your guts. So that's just my opinion. So I just have to say, just, you know, I'm usually not a huge safety hound, but as far as the, you know, the safety for everybody, if you're not familiar with the strut spring compressor, use the manufacturer's instructions. You know, Subaru tells you to use it, grab the springs. It was probably a bad move for me to show you just to grab the upper strut mount. That can be dangerous, particularly on this bearing style. If you don't have it in your strut spring compressor correctly, or pushing down straight, this upper mount can slide off. Thing will come out, blow your face off. You know, I've done a zillion of them. I've never had an issue, but I would encourage you, if you don't know, either ask somebody that does, or, you know, just follow the directions that the manufacturer puts out, or the manufacturer of your spring compressor. If you're not familiar with it, don't do it. These are super dangerous. And I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but that is a lot of potential energy right there if this were to come undone. So yeah, be cautious. Don't follow the methods that I use if you're uncomfortable with it, if it looks dangerous to you, which it is. So I would recommend not using my method for safety reasons. How's that for a disclaimer? I just worry, you know, I hate to see somebody do it, get in a hurry, and all of a sudden, you know, you lose a nub. So anyhow, with all that being said, we're going to take and stick this back in. I did double check the service manual. The best I could tell, there was no orientation to this upper mount. It does fit every single direction. It does not have an offset to it that changes the caster angle, from what I read. And so we can just pretty much stick it in any direction, you know, so long as this dot's facing out, which is oriented with the lower half there, the hook's on the steering knuckle. So yeah, same method I took it out as. I'm going to put it in, take and get this lined up here, hold it with one hand, kind of come up top and guide it in here. Get it up in, put one of the nuts on, we're done. Come up, I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go through and torque these down and then basically just reverse our procedure. So now we're back to where we started. Got the strut in, we can rotate it, so we got a good strut bearing. These Subarus have nice strut bearings. They actually have like a sealed bearing in the upper part of that strut. I probably should have pulled the whole mount off to show you, but I didn't. I'm gonna take my little twisty wire off here. Got one of the lower bolts ready. I'm gonna have to lift up on this control arm a little probably to align this. Thought you had an alignment bar, but I don't have one handy. You know what? I'm gonna go get one. There, that makes a little more sense. Now we can get this lower hole lined up. Oops. Do about 3 things at once here. There. So, got that one started. Just kind of hold it for us. Cam bolt. I'm just going to stick this in there and show you. Let me grab my wrench. Let me grab my 19. Get that bolt in most of the way here. Okay, so you'll see when I turn this cam bolt, watch the orientation or the relationship here between the strut and the steering knuckle as this turns. Get it, you see how it's cambering out towards me now. It's coming out to its max. Then as we rotate it, it's going to turn that in. Seems like a pretty minute adjustment here as far as how much it moves, but when you put that out on the end of a 16-inch wheel, it's pretty dramatic. It's probably around 2 degrees both ways from 0. So that's kind of how that works. Taking stick my bolt back in there in the right direction, and the cam bolt takes the washer nut, so we'll put that back on there. We'll put the nut back on the bottom. I'm going to take and just kind of find 0 with this, move it so it's about the middle of its sweep. That way when I throw it in the alignment machine, I know that I have adjustment both ways. I'm not really worried about the torque on them. I've got to align it, so I'll do that when I'm finished. Then simply you just need to put your ABS wire back on, put your brake hose back on the opposite side, tighten them up, put the tires on, and definitely 100% get it aligned. I know you check the manual and it tells you to scribe the steering knuckle here and to basically essentially put it back where it was. It doesn't work. I mean, it'll get you close enough to get the alignment shot, but it's going to destroy your tires. All right, viewers, you can see that's a pretty simple fix to change the struts in your Subaru. Be cautious. I can't express enough to be cautious. Whether you're a shop and you're using your spring compressor, do it the way that you feel comfortable, or do it the way that the manufacturer says. Me pushing down on the upper part of the mount, I probably shouldn't have showed that. So forget everything you've learned. It's dangerous. But like Austin Powers, danger is my middle name. Well, not really, it's actually Thomas, but so just be cautious. I would recommend, if you're a DIYer, just take it to a shop. Pull your struts out, take it to a shop, and maybe you could build a relationship with that shop in the sense that tell them what you're doing. Say, hey, when I'm done, are you interested in doing the alignment? Maybe you'll get a little bit of a deal. Hopefully the shops are nice where you're at and able to work with you. So, I hope that's the case. I hear a lot of horror stories about, other shops, and they're like, they don't want to help you and stuff, which I don't understand, because we'll help anybody. If you want to change your own struts, we'll change them for you. We might get the alignment job out of it. I don't know. You're getting something out of it, so who cares? Just do it. Help the people out. If you're a shop owner, help the people. Anyhow, you taking off? No?
Nope.
So that's it. I guess we'll just wrap this video up, and Trinity wants to close this one out for us.
Remember, viewers, I can do it. You can do it. Thanks for watching.